Hello there, Chris here from Gecko Models, and today I'm going to review the new tooled 1/16 scale Panzer II F from Gecko Models, who are a Hong Kong based armour modeler. I'm not familiar with Gecko. I know they do 1/35 scale stuff, but when I found out that they were going to do a 1/16 scale Panzer II, I was very excited. I contend that 1/16 scale is pretty much the perfect scale for armour of this type. I don't think 1/35 scale is really the best for doing what are in effect, I mean, this is really a tankette, okay? It's not really what we would call it's a light tank. If you know anything about the Panzer II itself, you can understand the concept of it coming from the Panzer I. But in 1/16 scale, these make sense. They adhere to what I call, well, actually Decals Models came up with this theory, a model that can fit in both hands, like you need two hands to hold it, so therefore it has a volumetric sort of, almost like a brick, okay? And that gives a real sense of scale, a real sense of drama, or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, it's 1/16 for these sort of tanks and tankettes. TACOM has been going great guns expanding their 1/16 scale, but they're being smart. They're doing small AFVs. They're doing the Panzer I. They're doing the modern day Wiesels and so forth. Whereas when you start getting into things like Panzer IIIs, Stug 3s, you get into a medium-sized tank, and then you get into Shermans, like my Sherman. I'll put a link up there. You can see I'm doing the Trumpeter or I Love kit. 1/16 scale Sherman, that is a beast. That's more than two hands. That's like four hands. It's big. And then a Tiger, and you're starting to get quite huge, because the real thing is the best scale for armor overall is not 1/16 or 1/35. I think it's 1/24 scale, and that's what Tasca did, I think they call themselves Asuka, okay, Japanese company. They've made the Panzer II in 1/24 scale. And so I'm going to compare these two just briefly. It won't be all about this, but it's really interesting. I think this is where armor modeling should be. It should be all 1/24 scale. It makes sense. The large vehicles in 1/35, like a King Tiger or a modern battle tank Challenger, Abrams and so forth, they're actually getting into a nice big two-handed brick style. But the smaller stuff like the Panzer IIs and other small AFVs aren't that small. It's a really good compromise of 1/24th, but it's never going to catch on, because now we've got every man and his dog is making 1/16 scale. So let's have a look at the kit itself. So the kit arrives in a box. Fancy that. Okay, but it's the style of box that's a top open and excuse my English, I speak Australian. It's got a flimsy outside, nice glossy box, and then it's got a really nice sturdy top opening sealed solid box like that. So that's to be commended. Revell, Airfix, aren't you listening to manufacturers who can do this? Okay, let's just have a quick look around the box and then we'll get stuck into it. So you've got some really lovely box art there, which I can't really tell. It's supposed to be North Africa, I think. If I can get the bloody lid back on. I can't get it on. Whoops, I swore YouTube's going to demonetize me. No, they're not. Bloody's not a swear word. I've got a bloody hand because it bloody hurts. Okay, so I can't put it back on. Let's just have a look around. Alright, so they just give you an idea of what's in there. Photoetch, ooh, decals, ooh, workable track links. And then some CAD shots, I believe, or maybe finished shots of, if I can get the glare out of my bloody light, of the finished product. We don't want to look at that. Let's look inside the box. What do you get? You get a box full of sprues. Okay, we're getting a lot of stuff in here. So, give you an idea of the size of the turret. That's the turret, that's my hand. I don't have Trump-like hands, I've got quite big hands, so it can barely fit in my hand. We've got a bag of individual links. Here we go. So you don't get a tub, you have to actually build it up. Alright, engine deck, quite a lot of parts. Let's just move on and get to the bottom, and let's look at the instructions, and we'll unbag and have a look at all this stuff, as I want to do in a normal inbox review. So the instruction booklet is quite thick actually, but it's a B5 scale, or half an A4, whatever it is. You get a blurb at the front in a few languages, explaining what the Panzer II is. And if you're not familiar with the Panzer II, it's basically a proof of concept vehicle, to call it anything else. I mean, the Nazis, they pulled the trigger too early starting World War II. They weren't planning to field the Panzer I or II in the field. They had hoped to have the Panzer III and IV as their main armaments in their Panzer divisions, but of course they went a bit too early. They shot the load too quickly, and they fielded these Panzer IIs. But the great thing about the Panzer II, it's not really a tank because it's just got a cannon, 20mm cannon on it. It's not an anti-tank machine at all. The fact is, it had radios, and the tank commanders had, and also the turret was a multi-man turret. So the tank commander was able to use the radio to his advantage and coordinate with the other elements of the division, and that thus began, you know, modern armoured warfare from there. Whereas the better French tanks, the much better armoured, much better guns, didn't have radios, didn't have multi-man turrets, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, what a history lesson. Wikipedia is your friend. Let's look. Okay, first page, I'm not even going to show you. It's the, you know, don't glue your fingers to your nose, etc., etc. You got a sprue map here. Looks very Great War hobby to mind. That looks exactly like the CADs that they use. Okay, so you got showing all the trees, and then we get into the construction. I haven't looked at this at all. This is blind going in. And yeah, that's good. Exploded drawings, very understandable what's going on. They give you some color call outs. Interior, do it flat white. Moving on, this is how we do the suspension. I'm not sure if the suspension itself is workable. It may be, it may not be. It doesn't look like it, but it's quite a few parts and looks like it's been done with a lot of detail. And yeah, so the hull is not one piece. So let's have a little segue here, because I'm going to bring you out the Tasca Asuka 1/24 scale. So that's 1/24 scale Panzer II hull. It's about that big, whereas that's the 1/16 scale pieces. So on the sidewall. So there you go. That's that explanation of about a brick. That's a really, really good size. Okay, let's move on quickly, because it's you know, it's a tank. It's not that difficult to put together. Armour modelers, you guys got it easy compared to aircraft modelers. I shouldn't say that, or you'll flame me in the comments. That's whatever. It fuels the YouTube algorithm, division and whatever. Okay, so multi-part wheels, which is great. And they look like, yep, they've got pegs there, so they are workable, or spinnable, I guess you could say, which is great. Either side. Now the tracks are workable, and it looks like, yeah, they're just one piece with pins. So that's really good. Idler wheels and sprockets, tracks going on, spare tracks. You got the option to use if you want. Oh, yeah, to put some spare tracks where you can't even see it. Let's point to the on camera, Chris. Got some inner hatch detail. The fenders going on. A little bit of photo etch is good there, used in the appropriate places for doing some of these fender brackets. The great thing about 1/16 scale, you can actually get better in scale thicknesses with things like that, but sometimes you have to use photo etch, but there doesn't look like there's any bending involved, which is good. We've got the hatches and vision slots, quite a few pieces, so this is going to keep you occupied. So this is another theory I have in mind. I reckon 1/16 scale tanks are the cheapest kits, apart from 1/200 scale ships that you can get. You know why? Calculate how much money this costs. Divide it by the amount of hours it'll take you to put together. Entertainment dollar per hour, cheap. You know, a good 1/35 scale kit is nearly $100 these days, and this I think is 150-ish. And yeah, it's going to take a bit longer than a normal 1/35. So we got the engine deck going on and all the way through like that. And other parts, very straightforward. Oh, this is good for the Pioneer tools. We've got separate, looks like plastic, yeah, plastic parts for the clasps, but they're multi-parts. That's good, so they're not molded on. That's a really, really good idea. We've got the aerial mounts. We've got options here to do more tools and things. I think this is they give you two options based on the kit: North Africa or Russia. So that must be the North African version, because you get all these jerry cans. Look at that! Look at all those jerry cans at 1/16. They give you a nice frame. That's great. So if you don't want to do that, you want some spare ones, maybe to put on your Tiger 1. More tools, more boxes. The lids are molded separately, so you could, with a bit of effort, you could have them open and put some more tools inside. And then we've got these racks at the back. So yeah, the only one piece of photo etch looks like it needs to be bent is the exhaust cover there. So that's a pretty simple roll. You can use the this main piece here as a jig to roll it over, heat up the PE before you do it. or not, depending on how thick it is. And then we get into the turret. So there's the 20mm cannon. Looks like a slide molded barrel. I'll have a look at the parts in a minute. And yeah, there's quite a few parts, so maybe you could keep the hatches open. I'm just going to skip forward a bit. There's going on to the mantlet and the magazines. Yeah, there's quite a few parts I've included here. So not everything, but so much, you know, the vision ports and so forth. So you could quite conceivably have the hatches open and keep and show off a lot of the detail here. So that's a really good thing. We've got the cupola and the seat. So yeah, that's, if you've got a figure, they don't include a figure, but yeah, you could quite easily have that open. They've got a really nice, the leather look of that pad there. We've got a bin at the back, which I don't think is on the Russian ones, but is on the North African. And that's done. Finito. And then, okay, let's look at the options. So option 1 is actually a Kursk, which is the yellow with the squiggly green, dark green. And then we get the Southern Russia Summer 42, which is what I would do. I think I really want to do the Panzer Grey, which is nearly black, of course. And then we get the Tunisian, say that 3 times fast, Tunisian North African version. So there's 3 really good versions to do there. Yeah, I don't know. I have to choose what I'm still gonna. I think I will build the finish. I bought that Tasca one already started, and the guy hadn't done the best job in the world, so I've had to fix a fair bit. And then I put it away when I heard the 116 one was coming out. But yeah. Oh, hang on. There's a 4th one. So we got all over dark yellow. That's a really pale dark yellow they're using there. But yeah, there you go. So there's 4 options. Choose the one you would do the most. Any of those SS? I don't think so. I don't do SS, so just Wehrmacht stuff. Yeah, probably this one. 116 Panzer Battalion. All right, that's the instructions. They look pretty good. Let's look at some more stuff. The decals, decals, water slide transfers, etc., etc. Not too bad. They're quite flat, but there is a little bit of internal carrier film, particularly on these large numbers, the 811. I think it's called Balkenkraus, is that right? Yeah, the crosses, they look pretty good actually. There's almost no carrier film on the outside on those. That's fantastic. And then also you get a little label for your fire extinguisher. Yeah, so the way I would test this to start, and maybe you want to consider getting some masks instead of using decals, is, well, the logo itself is a decal, so give that a go and try that on using your favorite or a variety of setting solutions before you actually do the real thing on your model. I always like it when they give you a bit of a spare bit there to have a go at. So that doesn't look too bad. There are not many markings on the Panzer II. Here's a nice flashy PE sheet. So this perforated bit here is for the exhaust cover, and then it looks like there's the aerial mount, which will have a bend, so you'll need a nice long fold and hold sort of thing going on there. Just a few other ones, bit of chain there as well. That's pretty good. And the other main PE sheet is the little divider that you get with the jerry can. So it looks like we've got at least 7 jerry cans in the kit. Let's have a look at all the parts, all the sprues. So I've shown you the sidewalls there for the lower hull, and the bolts and all that look fairly good, but let's have a look a bit closer to this is the lower hull. So you'll see, for those of you not that familiar with injection molding, you'll see a bit of a run going through there. You see that? That's actually just where the plastic goes into the mold, and then as it cools, that's what it does there. It just shows that you won't see that coat of primer or coat of paint, whatever you want to use. However, what is showing, there are a couple of external photos there, and just here, these are ejection point marks. You just got to carefully cut them off, and maybe a little bit of sand, a little bit of filler, but that's how they pop this out of the mold. So looking at the part itself, hopefully I can get the light and the shadows in there. The bolt detail, very crisp, nicely raised. You may not ever see this underneath, but it's looking really, really nice there. And again, with the same with, excuse my dirty fingers, I've been gardening again. Lots of mowing going on during summer here. Yeah, lovely detail. The hex bolts around the suspension arms and that just look really, really good, as do for these the bump stops. I think that's what they are, can't remember. Alright, so they look fantastic. So let's go in and look at a few little things first. And let me just zoom in, add your own sound effects. There you go. So I need a pointy thingy. So this is one of the wheels, obviously. Okay, so what you've got on the sidewalls there is, and I can read it even with my bad eyesight, is it says Continental. So there you go, and you've got serial numbers that are raised as well. along the sides there. Really lovely detail. And also on the return rollers. Can you see that there? I can't read that, but I believe it's, yeah, it says Continental 220 or something. Some great detail there, so that's fantastic. Okay, and that's also on the jerry cans. Do you wonder why they're called jerry cans? Jerry is a naughty word for German, and the Germans invented these first, I think. Whatever. Okay, so it says Wehrmacht, Kraftstoff, 20 litres, whatever. You get 7 of these, so that's really good. These are superb quality. So what I look for when I'm doing a sprue tour is I'm looking for a lack of ejection pin marks, and they are here, but they're on the inside. Okay, and I'm looking for small gates here, so it's easy to cut off, and hopefully on an edge where that's going to get sanded anyway. So that's what we've got there. So Gecko, you're impressing me so far. Here's some of the track pins, quite a few bags of these. Look nicely molded. I can't see any flash or any problems. It's good that the way that they've molded that there. You can just cut that off with a sprue cutter and just give it a quick sand with a sanding stick. And then let's look at the tracks. So they come like this, just in a group of 4, nice and loose. You've only got, what, 3 points on each track to cut off and clean up, which isn't too onerous. Got nice holes here. I can't see any of them closed up. The proof's in the pudding, of course. Maybe put a bit of a cast texture on them, perhaps. I don't know. Maybe leave as is, but that's pretty good. Oops, starting to bend. It's coming off. It's coming off. It's coming. There, it's off. So there you go. You only got 2 to do to cut off. All right, let's have a look and zoom out and look at some of the larger pieces. I'm not going to do every sprue, but I want to just draw your attention to some of the details I've found having a look around. So this plate here is obviously the top hull plate where the turret goes on. This is the turret ring, which you'll never see. Yet they've put in the gear. Look at that. Put in the gear, or the race. Engineers help me out. I can't remember the term for this. I'm not an engineer, and I'm a financial type guy. I just know how to press buttons. And look, there's even holes on the underside. What's going on there? Why would you add that? You're never going to see it. That's bloody superbly well done. There you go. Okay, I can't really find any faults with these parts. They're all fantastic. We've got some clasps here. Here's the turret bin, vision slots. Yeah, all look really, really nice. I did notice a couple of sink marks, but they're on the inside of this piece here. You'll never see them, so that's fine. Let's move on and have a look at some more suspension and lower hull parts. So I brought these ones out because, again, the bolt detail here is fantastic. So that's really going to take a wash really well. It's very crisp. Got some spare tires there as well. That's really, really well done. And then the other thing I wanted to show you was down here, wing nut. Okay, so 1/16 scale, it's an appropriate size thickness. Yeah, it's not too bad. That'll come up really, really well. It's great you can do that in styrene. And yeah, looking really, really good. Okay, I gave a little sneak at this sprue at the start, but let's have a look at it again. Here's the turret. So it's as big as my hand, pretty much. And what I want to show you, and hopefully I've got the right angle there with the light, is, if you can, I'll just drag over it. Okay, weld detail. It's the most important thing you do, especially in the larger scales, is surface texture. And most of the time you have to do it yourself. So I'm going to have to add a lot of weld seam detail to my Sherman, for example, and my Tiger. But this one has got some really nice in-scale weld lines there. It's really done well, and it's a bit raised at the lip there, and there's a little lip there as well. I think I've got some Panzer II reference photos, because I think they've got one up at the at the Cairns Army Museum. I've been there about 4 times. Anyway, fantastic detail, really well done. The fenders look great with that diamond tread pattern. That looks great. Again, all the sprue attachment points are in really good places. They're minute. They're not massive like a Revell kit. And yeah, ejection pin marks. There are some obviously underneath here, but they're hidden. Also on this cupola ring as well. So there are a couple under the fender, however, so they may need filling, but they're fair way in. You probably won't see them, but really easy to fill at that sort of scale. That's nothing to complain about, although people will complain about it. Okay, so we got the gun. Oh no, we got suspension arms. What's in camera, Chris? Have a look. Okay, on this sprue we've got a bit of everything, but we do have some main pieces for the 20mm cannon. There's the magazines. which look okay, the magazine clips, but here's the cannon itself, which is slide molded. One thing I did notice at the ends of the compensator, or whatever they call that at the end there, is not drilled out. I would get like a nice 0.2mm drill and just drill them a bit deeper. And also you could probably say the same for the MG34 for the coax gun here, which is done really lovely detail, but the barrel shroud is solid. The end of the barrel is also not drilled all the way through. Can you see that there? Okay. Which, that's easy enough to replace. If you just want to get a brass barrel and replace that, it'll really enhance the look. All right, we've got two more to go, and then we'll wrap it up. So here's some more wheel details, and I really wanted to show you this. I mean, that's fantastic, the way that they've done that. There's a slight cast texture to that, but it's actually a bit smooth. I would add a bit more cast texture here and there just to add it up, but those teeth are really nice and sharp. The bolt detail, these hex bolts or ock bolts, whatever they're called, they're lovely. The molding is really nice and crisp. Again, this is going to take a wash fantastically. And all these holes here, I think that's really, really well done. Some ejection pin ejection pin marks on the inside there, but they're going to be covered by that piece there, and all the way through and everything like that together. You've got the leaf springs there. Again, nicely done. And what's this? I can't remember. Oh, that's for the bins and so forth. They're looking good too. All right, last one to look at are the clear parts. Okay, so you get a whole bag of them, and I think there's some double ups there. I don't remember there being that many headlights on the Panzer II, but there you go. So you got the full headlights, and you got the convoy, the shrouded ones, and then you got all the vision ports for the cupola, and they're done really, really well. So there we have it. Let me just gather my thoughts, and we'll have a little concluding segment. So what do I think of Gecko's Panzer II 1/16 scale? I reckon this looks like a fantastic kit. I have built a few 1/16 scale tankettes. I've built Tacom's one Type 94 tankette, the Japanese one, and I'm building their Tacom Wiesels at the moment, the TOW and the 20mm version. I'm building the Sherman from Trumpeter, I Love Kit, same company, and the Hobby Boss 1/16 scale Tiger as well. And I have to say, this looks a lot better than a Tacom kit. Tacom, don't get me wrong, great company, great kits, but they have lots of ejection pin marks, external ones particularly. Sometimes the fit's not that good, or you need to do lots of mold seam removal and lots of fiddliness, and it does drag you down after a while. I mean, the Type 94 went together okay. The Wiesels, I'm enjoying it, but like their 1/35 scale ones, I think they're still a little bit below. The gold standard is Tamiya, obviously, but I think Trumpeter kits actually go together better, in my opinion. And this one looks as good or better than a Trumpeter kit, and probably is a bit more accurate than a Trumpeter kit. I haven't touched on accuracy. I don't really care that much about accuracy problems with kits. This looks like a Panzer II to me. It's close enough for what I want. And so that's what I think. I think it's a really, really good kit. And again, I really love 1/16 scale for this particular size subject. And what else is there to say? I think I will still build the 1/24 scale one though, because again, that's another lovely size, and maybe I'll do that one in dark yellow. I really love doing. I've always wanted to do a Panzer II in Panzer Grey, to do a definitive Panzer Grey. Because for years I've been debating, what actual colour is Panzer Grey, and a lot of people have really tried to nail it. I think Bruce Worrell's done the best job with that. Check out his channel, because Panzer Grey is basically black. It's almost black. It's not light blue or royal blue or whatever. But I don't care. If you want to paint your Panzer light blue, go for it. But yeah, I've always wanted to do one in this sort of size, this sort of mass in Panzer Grey. Because contrary to opinion, most Tigers aren't done in Panzer Grey, they're all in yellow. So that's what I'll probably do with this one. Anyway, I'm rambling. It's the end of the video. I've got to get out of here. My kids are going to come home any minute now and upset the apple cart, and all you hear is screaming and hollering on the video. So until next time, thanks for watching, and cheers.